Hi guys, welcome back to the Doc and Diana show. Today I would like to take some time to talk to you a little bit about my story, my health journey, and kind of how I got to where I am now into coaching, and kind of how I take care of myself with all the demands of running a business, running a farm, running a family. When I was just out of my second pregnancy, I was starting to notice that things really were not rebounding the same way. I didn't feel like I did after the first one. I had lots of fatigue. I had a lot of lingering side effects, headaches. The recovery just was not smooth. And I had no reasons for it, at all. My PCP didn't have any answers. And basically he just kind of kept farming me out to specialists, just hoping somebody might find something and then we could hang our hat on it. I honestly don't know how I made it through the days that I had. It was so demanding and I was so exhausted. On top of just trying to get the energy I needed to physically function and keep up with kids and those kinds of things, I had brain fog. Some incredible amounts of brain fog. As a teacher, that was pretty debilitating. I can remember moments of being in front of the class. It was actually very embarrassing. I have a PowerPoint going on behind me, and I noticed as I was building my PowerPoints for lecture to make sure I had all the objectives covered, I was putting a lot of information on my PowerPoint slides because I just couldn't remember what to say or the thoughts I wanted to get across. There was also seemed to be a huge disconnect. My brain was going really fast, but I could not form appropriate sentences. I could not articulate what I wanted to get out, and it was frustrating, very frustrating. I had headaches, really, really bad headaches, lots and lots of continual sinus pressure. You just wanted to close your eyes. You did not want to participate. Everything was irritating. I had gone to pick up my youngest, who was in an in-home daycare. Absolutely loved that daycare and what that provided for him. But I went to go pick him up. I'd already picked up Connor, from actual school, and was going to pick up my youngest and parked the car. Went to the door to get him. By the time I got him and got back to the car, I had a flat tire. It was really, really low. I probably should not have driven on it. I went super slow, needed to make it back to town. So I remember having the headache. I remember looking at the tire and just not even knowing how I was going to get this taken care of. No one available to help me at the time, and I, flashers on the shoulder, got back to a tire service station, and I remember sitting in the waiting room that had some toys in it. I could shut the door on it, and I dozed in and out with this headache, just waiting for them to come and tell me it was done so I could go home. I got home and I knew I just needed to make it to their bedtime. And I needed to get them dinner, all those last things that you have to do to wrap up your day. And when I got done, I decided right then that this was not how I was going to live the rest of my life, and I needed to find out what was wrong. A trip to my PCP with these, questions and these symptoms actually got me diagnosed with thrush and a UTI. I was put on an antibiotic and an anti-yeast like Diflucan. And in that 10-day cycle, I could not believe the changes that I experienced. I felt so much better. So basically all of my symptoms, as long as I was on that medication, they were gone. I had relief. But the issue was I didn't want to be on those medications for the rest of my life. So I had to figure out what was causing this and how to actually get out ahead of it, get control. When I went back to my PCP for a follow-up, I was explaining to him my experience, that I had all of these, symptoms and things that daily I was having to struggle against. And the combination of those two meds took them all away. And I had a sheet, a legal pad full of things that I recognized as different. I didn't know to make some basic changes for, nutrition and things like that at the time. So within a couple of weeks of being off the medication, I was pretty much back to square one. I was joint pain, the fatigue, brain fog, all of those. All of my friends came back, and it was pretty rough. He had no explanation for me. So I was sent to a gastroenterologist. When I got to the gastro doc, and he kind of did his intake questions and stuff to get brought up to date on my situation, it was embarrassing. It had the shock and awe factor for me for sure. And then a huge amount of fear came into play. You tell someone all your symptoms of what you're experiencing, and when their first response to you is, okay, I would like for you to do an HIV test. I was mortified, absolutely mortified. And then, of course, to top it off, I get to walk out of that room, and the individual working in that office that checked me out was someone I went to high school with. I wanted to crawl under the closest object. It was awful. I went downstairs, I gave my blood, and I went home and could not let go of it. It was the longest 2 weeks of my life to wait and get those results back. Of course, it's negative. I knew my life choices had put me at any kind of major risk. But when you tell someone all your symptoms and that's their first go-to, you begin to question your own memory. Like, did I really not do drugs? Am I really okay? That was pretty bad. When that was done and no answer was there, then of course they wanted to scope me and see what they, if there was anything physical. At that time, I went in, they did it, no significant findings. So of course the next stop was, well, maybe it's your gallbladder, so let's check your gallbladder. I went in for a HIDA scan. They did it. Of course, it did react. It was a very painful process. And then you go home and you wait 2 more weeks, and you wait for the results of that. Pretty inconclusive. The functioning was down. No stones were found. So they just went ahead and opted and offered for a gallbladder removal surgery. Being at my last rope, I took it. I went in, I had the surgery, and ended up, when I was done and recovery was over, of course I'm thinking, well, this is going to solve all my problems, right? They removed it. They just cut it out, and I'm better. But I wasn't better. A couple weeks, after recovery, my symptoms began to come back. And it was, again, you're just going back to square one. And I go back to my PCP. Nope, that didn't do it. So now we've got an anxiety med, an antidepressant. I've got birth control in the mix. I've lost an organ. I've got no answers. So I was pretty much at the end of my rope and willing to try anything, which I understand. That's how a lot of our patients are coming to us at Revolution. You've been mainstream. It's failed you. You haven't had any answers. And you need a different way to look at medicine, at health. And I am so happy that we are available in order to give that to you, first of all. I wish I had found a resource like that much sooner in my journey. I went in, I did find, I believe it's called an iridologist, reads your eyes and gives you this kind of summary of what you need, where you're at. After sitting with this individual, I was given a list, a pretty basic list of foods to not eat. It was really only about 8 things, And I thought it sounded pretty simple until I tried to find the food I could eat. It was difficult. I was supposed to stay on the plan for 3 weeks, and in that time, basically what had happened was I was given I had removed all of the inflammatory foods, which allowed my gut to begin to heal, and of course allowed all of the inflammation that I was experiencing. It just calmed everything down. I had no idea what was going on. I just knew it was working. I knew my symptoms were going away, and this was manageable. This was something I could do for the rest of my life. We were detoxing my system and eliminating all the known inflammatory foods to try to calm my gut down and to let it heal. I had some really good supplements on board, so that helped with some of the cravings that I was feeling as I was trying to get my gut bacteria back in balance. After that 3 weeks, when it was done, I had lost 30 pounds, but my symptoms were gone. The weight, yeah, that's a great side effect. That's fantastic. But my symptoms were gone, and that is what made the biggest difference for me, and what absolutely convinced me that these were real principles that I wanted in my life to determine what I was putting in my body. And of course, this planted a seed that is continuing to be harvested today. I'm so curious about all the connections between symptoms, gut, stress, all of these areas that I was experiencing at the time, and now looking back, I can now make the direct connections as to how they were working against me. From that moment, I have not looked back. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times when I am less than perfect, and I do eat foods that are, going to cause a response. I learned very quickly that my body was going to give me all the clues I needed to know that that food was not serving me well. I still struggle sometimes, just like everyone else. Seasons change, stress increases, schedules get crazy. But as those seasons change, I'm finding better and better tools and resources so that I do have a plan in place, and I am able to curb cravings and make it through longer days, baseball practices, and figure out how to cook a meal for my family or eat on the go in a way that serves and fuels my body so that I'm not irritated or taking a step back into those symptoms. I can tell you that the way stress works, with it being so inflammatory, I could have had all the right food at the end of my fork, and if I was still in a stressful environment, it would have made zero impact. I would have still had issues, symptoms. I would have never completely healed. I'm really, really excited that I now, through my functional medicine coaching, I get to share this testimony, and I get to share this story and hopefully empower somebody else who feels like, oh, this is just how life is supposed to be. I've gotten older. This is just part of it, because that's not the truth. The truth is there is an optimal you. There's an optimal health range. There is a reason that you feel bad. And if you are curious enough, we're able to find that for you. We're able to stop the triggers, identify the triggers, and then give you tools and resources, and so that you do not have to feel the way that you feel right now. Guys, be sure to like this, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and be sure to come back again as we continue this journey into functional medicine, into farm to table, into Revolution Ranch.